Hello and welcome to the Mr. Brown podcast, where I reflect on my journey as an early career teacher, with a special focus on mental health. I am your host, James Brown. Good afternoon. This morning, I striked. I'm not sure what the past tense is, but suffice to say, I took part in strike action, and throughout the morning I made lots of voice notes, and so I thought I would share those with you. Be sure to let me know what you think. First day of strikes, teacher strikes, and it's my first time striking ever. I have to say it was quite exciting driving into school. Well, I say into school, we decided not to park on site and then strike, so I've parked at a car park in town and I'm now walking from town to school. But I found it quite exciting on the way in to hear discussion on the news about the very event that I myself would be taking part in shortly. I'll keep you updated. Just while I'm walking to school, I thought I'd walk and talk because there were three other ideas that have come up regarding striking in the past few days that I thought would be worth discussing. First, students ask lots of questions about striking. Some teachers seem to put strike action in the same category as politics and salary and suggest that it's almost rude to ask those sorts of questions. Other teachers are very open about what they're doing with striking. And so I'm not sure which is the right approach. What sorts of conversations can you have with students about striking? I've tried to be as factual as possible. If students have asked out of a natural curiosity, I don't want to stifle that. That wouldn't be a good thing as a teacher. So instead I've just tried to give them the facts. But I'm not sure whether this was the right thing to do, so your thoughts would be appreciated. Second, the idea that if you're striking, you should be picketing. Some people have said they'll strike but won't picket and will instead, spend the day sat at home watching Netflix, and that is legitimate strike action. As long as they're not in school and not working, that's all that matters. I think that I'm of the opinion that if you're striking, you should do everything you possibly can to achieve the goals that the strike sets out to achieve. So you should go and picket, unless there are overriding reasons not to. So many teachers, of course, have children in other schools, and so if those schools have closed due to strike action, then those teachers may need to look after their children. That would be an overriding reason, but I don't think Netflix would be an overriding reason. Third, I spoke to one teacher who isn't striking, not because he isn't in favour of striking. He just feels that this particular strike is too soft. He said that he thought that the social cost of this strike wasn't high enough. So students will miss a day of school, but then teachers will ensure that they catch up, and so no learning will be lost, and it will have no impact on their GCSE grades. He contrasted this soft strike action with what primary school teachers did a few years ago when they apparently refused to undertake SATs. They just refused to do Key Stage 2 SATs. So that, by contrast, according to this teacher, was a hard strike, and it had the desired effect. So perhaps this strike isn't hard enough, or maybe it should be harder. Maybe they'll get harder as time goes by, we'll see. And then maybe that teacher will join us next time. I'll need to stop talking and walking now because I'm thoroughly lost. I need to figure out where my school is. I'm approaching my school gates now, and I can indeed see a line of picketers. This is very exciting. I'm now part of the picket, waving an NEU flag, and we're collecting honks from passing cars. We're collecting a lot of honks off vans. It's the vans and the lorries that are the most ardent honkers at the moment. It's great. And the head teacher has been out to bring us tea and coffee. Wonderful. I've been waving my placard for about 10-15 minutes now, long enough for my shoulders to start to ache. The response has been overwhelmingly positive so far. Well, there's been a couple of rude hand gestures from drivers as they go past, but otherwise, all positive. Very few honks from the Uber drivers. Thought it was worth noting. Also no honks from the Tesla drivers. In addition to picketing and waving placards and flags, we're also handing out NEU pens to the Year 11 students as they enter. So Year 11s and Year 13s are in school today, and they're all going to be doing their work with a union pen. But there's something very symbolic about that. I haven't quite figured out what, but it seems powerful. So the picket is over, and we're now... I don't know whether the picket is over or it's just moving locations, yeah. So we're moving from school now, and we're walking into town where there's going to be a big demonstration where we're going to join together with other protesters and picketers. And I'm here with a colleague of mine who was partly responsible for my decision to strike today. Had some great conversations with him. So I'm going to call you Mr. N. In fact, I've called you Mr. N on the podcast before.
Oh, right. I didn't realise I'd been name dropped before, yeah.
So why are you striking today, Mr. N?
Well, I fundamentally believe that the education sector is not being led in a way that means it's the best outcomes for both its users and its deliverers, you know. I think that the cuts to many different aspects of the education sector in the past 13 years, there's been absolutely savage cuts to the amount of support that's given to SEN students. I remember teaching around that time, and if I had a class with students with some kind of SEN need, I would absolutely expect there to be one or two teaching assistants in the room, and that is just, that concept for most people teaching now is absolutely alien to them,
Yeah.
And I think that the thing to, I think people look at wider society, and something I've spotted is like the people who come out of university now seem to be so much more switched on, seem to be so much more engaged, intelligent, talented. But they were all the product of an education system that was pre-2010. They all, received primary education under a previous government when funding was at record levels. And, the aspect of teachers' pay is really a side issue. Yes, do teachers want to, not go into debt or because their pay is falling behind inflation? Of course, everybody, feels like, they want to make ends meet, they want to be able to build a future, but I'm passionate about the fact that, the government's recent 5% pay rise that was awarded was not a pay rise at all, in the sense that it wasn't funded. And because it wasn't funded, that was effectively the government, passing the bomb to school leaders and saying, oh, well, we've given your staff a pay rise, you're going to have to work it out yourselves. I think the school system right now has been cut to the bone in terms of what it can actually afford to pay for. You've got, many schools have had to cut things like cleaning staff. lunchtime supervisors, all of these additional staff that make the school work and a healthy place to be at. I think the people handling school budgets have just been absolutely hammered, and I think the one thing that defines the current action is that we're only in the position we're in right now, where we've got the NEU out on strike today. I think we would have virtually all unions out on strike if the government hadn't introduced hugely draconian laws under Boris Johnson.
Which way is it?
This way.
This way.
When effectively it led to, the turnout for any of the three Tory prime ministers in their leadership elections is absolutely dwarfed by even the turnout in the unions that haven't been able to strike today, because they've not met the government's arbitrary target of what percentage. Now, 90% of NASUWT staff who voted to strike, but because there wasn't a big enough turnout on the whole membership, but it's I don't see MPs getting recalled because they didn't get more than half the votes in the constituency. It's just it's people using democracy for their own ends, and it's obviously, I'm speaking about it from a party political stance, but it's hard not to get party political when the reason why we're coordinating with many other professions today is essentially because there's not a single public service in this country that has improved in any way, shape or form in the last 12 years. And that is just, could there be a more damning indictment when the wealth of the richest portion of society has absolutely skyrocketed, in the face of, the rest of society, finding it ever harder day by day. So does that sum it up for you, Mr. B?
That's fantastic. Thank you. And so we were speaking just on the way down here that for many of us at this picket, we use the term picket virgins or strike action virgins, and that goes for me. And this one felt like a good one. It felt like a very positive, overwhelmingly positive and successful one. Would you describe it that way too?
Yeah, I've been on. I've been teaching near 20 years, and I've been on one day of action prior to this, which was actually a joint day of action back in, I think, 2012 maybe. Thank you. We were just saying we were just giving our thanks to a member of the public wishing us well here, and I think that's indicative. Is that the government really, I think, is working with a very old paradigm of what society's view of strike action is. I think you've got effectively massive public support that has still has outlasted the kind of striking fatigue effect that traditionally kicks in very early. We've been here since about 7 o'clock and have been given well wishes by probably close to 200 people driving past, or pedestrians.
There are a few rude gestures.
There have been one or two rude gestures simulating some kind of self-attention. But other than that, I think public support has been there. Yeah.
So. Good one, yeah. And I'm looking forward to this this demonstration.
Yeah.
Town. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that, Mr. N.
You're welcome.
So we walked from school into town. We've had lunch, and we are now heading to a demonstration in the centre of town where lots of other protesting teachers, picketers, will be amassing. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. So we've joined a crowd of, I think, must be around about 200 teachers in the centre of Coventry. Apparently Cov is a hub for this sort of activity, and I believe we're waiting on a speech from the head of the NEU, maybe. Someone said something like that. I'll keep you posted. We joined the rally, or the demo, for about 45 minutes or so, and the headline speaker was the General Secretary of the NEU, Kevin, what was it?
Courtney.
Kevin Courtney.
by far the best speaker. They were all... And tallest, yeah. Absolutely enormous. That always helps, I think. We decided that Liam Neeson on stilts would portray him if there was ever a movie adaptation. Then we've just spent half an hour in a cafe having a debrief. If you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word in person and on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. BrownPod or email mrbrownpod@gmail.com. Please subscribe, rate and review in your directory of choice. Please also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Mr. BrownPod and helping me cover the cost of producing the podcast. Thank you and talk again soon.